don't go anywhere further. We have a question for you from Councillor Kelly.
I think I've got about 19 actually.
Okay, go ahead. Start with the...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This specific location was brought to our attention previously.
Yes.
And I brought a motion to council seeking a municipal support resolution for the project at this site previously.
Yes.
One of the reasons I did that was because of the small size of the project. I thought it was a good, a start maybe to look at these projects, because I'm sure you're aware of some concerns in the communities about them. But this project is significantly larger than the first submission. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you explain to my colleagues how much bigger this proposal is than the last one?
Okay, so the size of this one is 120 megawatts, and the previous one we proposed is the 4.99, almost 5 megawatts connecting to the distribution system.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to interrupt you there because I don't think many of my constituents would understand that language, but what they do understand is acres. I'm looking at the last presentation. Your total footprint was 0.26 acres of land, including all required setbacks. Can you tell me how many acres this one is?
This one is around 8 acres for everything, all inclusive.
Okay. When was your first public meeting?
It's November the 3rd.
And where was that held?
So that is in the Old Town Hall. It's a Friday.
Friday evening at 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Yeah. 44 kilometers from the site that we're discussing?
Yes.
Okay. How did you notify residents of that meeting?
Okay, so we send all the letters to the abutting property owners, and also we send a notification to the CAO of the municipalities.
Okay.
So yeah, so we also host the online, because we just consider in case some of the owners can not make in
Thank you.
person.
I have
Yeah.
more questions on that
Okay.
you'll be able to touch. Did you reach out to my office in advance of that meeting to invite me or my staff?
Probably not to my knowledge.
Okay, and because I looked and I couldn't find it, so thank you for
Yeah.
confirming that that didn't happen. And can you confirm, I don't know, we already did that. How many people showed up at the public meeting on Friday night at 6 p.m., 44 kilometers from the site?
Okay, it's 2 people.
2 people, and were they both residents of West Carleton?
Yes, yeah, I think the one of them is actually abutting to that property.
Okay, and the other one was the former property owner?
Yes.
So do they still live in West Carleton, to your knowledge?
Sorry, the question?
Does that person live in West Carleton still?
I don't know, but it's the former owner of the same property.
Okay, and so the second meeting, when and where was that held?
So the second meeting is November 23rd, is online through the team meetings.
Okay, is that a Friday as well?
Yes,
At 1 p.m.?
yes.
Do you traditionally hold your public meetings during the workday on a weekday
Um,
in the middle of the day?
so it traditionally not. I think we first consider at night, but because the first one is at night, so we're thinking this one could be in the daytime.
Okay, good. And was my office made aware of that meeting?
So yeah, I think we not specifically inform your office, but we do notify the planners and also the CAO of the Ottawa.
And I have some questions for them later as well. How many people showed up to the second meeting?
I think around 14 people in total.
14. Okay, I saw it reported in our local media that approximately 10 people were there. So a bit of a discrepancy there. I don't think we need to focus on that, but so that new meeting, were there any attendees in the second meeting that were also at the first?
No.
No?
The
Are
first
you sure about that?
Yeah, I think the first 2 is a neighbor, Danielle, and also the former owner. I don't think that 2 is on board, but we do have another.
But the 2 people that were at your first public meeting,
Yes.
they were also at the second one.
Oh, okay.
So only about 12 people total were really engaged on the project, 14 maximum from what I'm seeing.
Mhm.
Are you happy with that level of engagement?
So I think we did, I cannot say happy or not. I think we
You
did.
could just say yes or no.
Yeah, I think I'm happy about that.
Okay. Would you agree that having the first meeting locally and engaging with a local councillor would have increased engagement?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, I think we probably look at the rules of ISO. I think next time we could improve,
Okay,
we'll
thank
do better.
My final question for you, and while doing this, I'm gonna give a shout out to our local media, West Carleton Online. I think they've done an amazing job at covering these BESS proposals. I think the best in the entire city on this. And I was reading an article last night. Your colleague was quoted in that article saying they met with a few city agencies during this process. What were those agencies and who did you meet with specifically?
So that question I will leave to Mira because I think she's the person making the comments.
Thank you for your question. So we discussed with the MECP and the MVCA.
What's MECP?
So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks.
Okay. So those are not city agencies.
No, there might have been a miscommunication.
That's fine.
with that
Okay.
wording.
Thank you very much for answering all my questions.
I know that lots of question my colleague, they're gonna ask you, so we appreciate you took the time to be here with us today. So we're gonna start with Councillor Kelly.
Sure.
May as well, you've been hogging the mic all day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I believe I will be first directing my questions to planning staff. And I guess the first question I'd like to get some information on. There's been a lot of questions about community benefit and a fund. Has there been any work done by the proponent with the city to hammer down any specifics on that fund? And have there been communications, for example, with community associations or anyone within the city who'd be able to administer such a fund? And is there any details you could share with us about the conversations you've had with the proponents on those?
Thank you for the counselor. Through you, Mr. Chair, we have not received any information about community benefits. My understanding is that there are projects in other jurisdictions where community benefits are paid via an agreement with the municipality. That is something that is under the purview of the respective municipality to negotiate with the respective BESS proponent. That would be something that would have to happen at the appropriate time.
When do you think is the appropriate time for such a conversation?
So we will be, if any of these projects that are proposed within Ottawa are successful through the procurement process through IESO, as we've recommended to yourselves and to council, that we will come back to advise of the results of the procurement. And then they will initiate a pre-consult process through the development review process. And it would probably be through that approvals process that negotiation would take place.
Generally, when there is a fund of this nature, whose responsibility is it to initiate those conversations and fill in those details? Would that be the proponent? Would that be the city? Would that be a joint venture?
It would be a joint venture. I don't have specifics on that because generally speaking, these types of agreements are confidential. As we do not have this type of a project yet in the municipality, we don't have any precedent to go by. So this would be something we would need to determine ourselves, and it would be up to us through legal to advise us on.
Maybe I'll ask Mr. Mark a question then, because waste management facility is in Ward 5, and as part of the approval of the expansion, there was a lot of discussion, I believe, there is a community fund at least that exists for that project. They've provided space for recreation for the community. So do we have, could we use that as a precedent to look at an arrangement such as that? I guess, does it have to be an energy project is my question.
In those examples, they certainly, for instance, they weren't waste management projects that were provided by the waste management company through what it gave the city. But what that precedent does tell me is we may not have examples in the city of Ottawa, but there are probably examples elsewhere in the province. And just as is that in that waste management case, Ms. Enta and legal looked to what was going on elsewhere in the province. I expect we would do the same here.
Well, that's good to know. And I would encourage future applicants to do that and perhaps come to the table with some ideas in advance for that fund. From a city planning perspective, what do we know about the end of life of these systems?
Very high level in terms of what we know about the decommissioning. My understanding is that these are contracts that do have a lifespan of approximately 20 years,
Okay.
upon which time they would have to be decommissioned. And if no continuation of the project proceeds, then planning would have to determine how to restore the site back to its original condition,
Okay.
I would imagine.
And we've heard concerns today, whether they're rare or not, about fires and potential for groundwater contamination. Again, that might be an extremely minuscule chance that that does happen, but in that minuscule chance that it does happen, what can the city do, or what is the city willing to do to provide relief for residents whose water may have been affected by something? And is there precedent for that? Is there another type of project we could look at in terms of what would occur next if there was some accident?
So Chair, I'm just going to jump in. I think that we always have to recognize that this is fairly new. This is a brand new process, and it is a provincial-led process from the IESO and applicant-driven. So we are responding. We are a stakeholder, just as the residents who've come before us are. As we work our way through this particular process in terms of the municipal support resolution is not conveying any approvals. It's not conveying any zoning permission. It's not conveying any site plan control permission. It is simply indicating whether or not we are open for this to proceed within our municipal boundaries. And in turn as well, that condition of openness is subject to a whole series of conditions. If the applicant were to go forward with this through a zoning bylaw process and then through site plan control, the site plan control process itself would then be looking at things such as fire safety, groundwater contamination, noise, screening, natural heritage impacts. Those things would work their way through the site plan control process. Generally as well, if there are opportunities or concerns about whether or not funds need to be reserved for decommissioning or for other types of impacts, those would be inserted as conditions within that site plan agreement between the city and the applicant itself. But as we are very far away from that process yet, that's not something that I can speculate as to what would be in them.
Okay, thank you. When did planning staff become aware of the 3 BESS proposals in Ward 5?
We have been engaging with IESO on the latest procurement as the municipality. The project proponents began approaching the city requesting MSRs in October. We met with them individually. Myself, as well as staff from planning services, provided high-level comments from a official plan and zoning perspective. I can say that during those meetings, I did advise them to communicate with the councillors' offices and do their own due diligence as appropriate.
And did planning staff reach out to my office in regards to these 3 applications and the city's support for a municipal support resolution?
Councillor, the memorandum went from the general manager to all councillors, indicating that there were.
But did you reach out to my office specifically to engage me or my staff?
That I don't know about.
Okay. Did you reach out to Councillor DeRuza's office to engage him on the project in his ward?
So again, Councillor, I think the main thing here is, again, we are not the proponent. The city is not the proponent.
I understand
no
that.
Statutory processes.
Did you reach out to any of the councillors' offices in the wards where these projects are being proposed, where you are suggesting that we provide a municipal support resolution?
Not specifically to my awareness.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.